Hey everyone, I'm Johanna, yoga and meditation teacher, Reiki master, sound healing practitioner, and sacred cacao facilitator. You're listening to the Vibrational Shift podcast, dedicated to people looking to reconnect with themselves. Together, we'll explore different energy healing modalities, meditations, breathwork, sound healing, and so much more. Are you ready to experience a vibrational shift with me? Welcome back to the Vibrational Shift podcast. It's me, your host, Johanna. If this is your first time listening in, welcome. I'm a yoga and meditation teacher, Reiki master, and energy and sound healing practitioner. I'd love to get to know you all, and I actually have a few free community events coming up. First up is this Sunday, August 20th. I'm teaching with Manifest House. It's a virtual well-being space rooted in community. They help women and non-binary people, especially those of color, care for all aspects of themselves unapologetically. I'm leading an hour-long gentle yoga nidra practice and sound bath at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. This offering is free for their members, but it's also free for you, the listeners. Just use the code SELFLOVE at checkout. And then next Sunday, come celebrate a few things with me. If you've been feeling like you need a reset on life, you need a way to connect to the core of who you are, that you need to remember the love that lives within you, that you need to learn how to claim your self-worth, to reawaken yourself to the magic of who you are, to reclaim your connection to Mother Earth and your ancestors, and that you need to learn rituals that ground the support of self-love within your being, then you need to join me for the free community event I'm leading on August 27th. It's going to be a free sacred self-love community healing circle at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'll guide you through a 45-minute yoga nidra practice and a soothing alchemy crystal singing bowl sound bath with the intention of allowing you to dive into the wisdom of your heart and to see your full worth. I'll also be sharing about my upcoming Sacred Self-Love course, including special early bird offers and a limited quantity of self-love ritual bundles that are going to be available only to the first few folks that sign up. So make sure that you're there. Even if you can't be there live, make sure that you RSVP, because everyone who RSVPs is going to get the official offer as soon as the session is over, with all of the details directly in your inbox. This community healing circle is your chance to experience what it feels like to be held in tender love and support by me. I'm a Reiki master, sound healing practitioner, and experienced yoga and meditation teacher. If you want to learn more about me and about this offering, just head over to lunaserenity.com. It's located, the link to RSVP, right underneath of the event section. All right, enough of that. On this week's episode, I welcome on Nicolette Guillen. We reminisce on Magical Mujer mornings from the days of Clubhouse, the power of community from across the world, and the magic that was created in the spaces that Nico held for her community. We also talk about breaking generational curses, how we're setting the tone for our future generations through self-healing, talk therapy, and EFT tapping. Now, EFT tapping is an alternative acupressure therapy used to restore balance to disrupted energy in the body. It's been authorized as a treatment for anxiety, depression, physical pain, and insomnia, and even for war veterans with PTSD. It's a really safe and accessible therapy that can be used by children and adults. And for more information, to find a practitioner that you can work with, head over to thetappingsolution.com. And if you're seeking support from a therapist and you identify as Latine, Latino, Latina, Latinx, you can visit latinxtherapy.com or other resources like Psychology Today. At the end of this episode, Nico is going to give us our own experience with EFT tapping. And so to be able to follow along with what exactly it is that you're supposed to be tapping on, where you're supposed to be tapping as she's talking, I highly recommend you head over to my Instagram. I've posted a video of the practice there so that you can follow along, so that you understand when she's tapping on the head, under the eyes, over the lip. You can see all those different placements because I know it's kind of hard to follow if you don't have that in front of you. So head over to my Instagram at Luna Serenity Yoga, and it is the most recent post that has Nico featured, and then you can actually follow the practice along with her there. I hope that you enjoy this episode. It was wonderful to be able to chat with Nico. Considering how we met a couple years ago, Clubhouse was like that safe bubble where I could go and speak my wishes into existence, and years later be able to look back and reflect and see how everything that I was manifesting kind of has come to fruition. And it all started with the rooms that she was hosting on Clubhouse. So enjoy, share this episode with a friend, anyone that is listening that maybe we've come across through Clubhouse. Snap a screenshot and tag me. That way I can see that you all are listening. I love it when I see those come through. All right. Enjoy this episode. See you on the other side. I have with me today Nicolette, and she and I met on Clubhouse. I think that was back in 2021. She was hosting this amazing room called the Magical Mujer mornings. Every single morning, I think it was 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And without fail, I would always be like, I want to go in there. I want to go in there, but I'm in a meeting for work. And so sometimes when I would have those empty pockets of time, I would hop in there and would hear her voice and just watch her work this room. If you've ever been on Clubhouse, you know that it's like a little tiny bubble of faces. And I don't know if I've shared this with you before, Nico, like listening to you and the energy that you would bring into those rooms was like uplifting, and knowing that I was going to speak in front of a room of, I don't even remember how many people were in there. I know that the numbers got really big towards the end when I would hop in there, and the information that was being shared and just the community that was being created was incredible. I was sharing with you right before we hit the record button that someone who was in that room, I went in there, I think it was you had a manifesting day, right? And I went in there and I said, I want to host a retreat. I have no idea how to do it, where I'm going to do it. And then I think maybe a few weeks later, I jumped in there and was like, I put in a deposit. I'm doing my first ever retreat. Someone who was in that room actually just was on the Sacred Self-Love retreat with me last week. And it was incredible because we realized we first met each other in your room, and she flew all the way out. I know she flew all the way out. And it's just an incredible connection and community that you helped facilitate. So I'd love to turn it over to you to talk a little bit more about yourself, introduce who you are and what you do.
Oh man, first of all, that was such a good story. Magical Mujer mornings will always have a special place in my heart because it really it shifted so much for me. And I'm just glad because that's what brought you and I together. And there was just we had a lot of those days where we would, just leave the floor open for people to speak freely, like the deepest things that did not feel safe with anybody else, but some reason in that pink corner on Clubhouse, that was our safe space to do all the things. And so many things have manifested from that space and relationships, situations, events. And I'm just so glad, that was a part of our stories. So thanks for having me. My name is Nicolette Guillen, and I am the host of the Evolve with Nicolette podcast. I've been doing it for about to be 4 years now. So it's been a journey. I started this healing journey around the time I launched my podcast, because at that time I didn't have access to therapy, or not even like access to therapy, but the I don't want to say, how do I say, like just the drive to go find a therapist. I knew I needed to talk to somebody, but I wasn't in that healing stage where I was ready to let go in that way, for someone to support me in that way. Um, so I did a lot of self-healing. So I basically, the beginning of my podcast was just documenting all the self-healing in the beginning. So if you listen to my beginning episodes, it's very much like a emotional dump. But it was in a way where, I tried to be very transparent and help people like myself, like a woman of color, specifically Mexican and Filipino, that we were not, uh, I don't want to say allowed, but we were just not, we didn't grow up in a space where it was safe to speak freely or to have even allowed to have big emotions and big feelings, you know? So I always say that especially the beginning episodes of my podcast is like a love letter to my kids to show where I was back then, you know, because even if like I never blow up and get a Spotify big contract or something, like that's just, you know, something that I'm able to leave my kids, if anything. And just the plus of all that is I've been able to cultivate like a followership and our listenership and you know, a community online that just can relate, you know. So on top of the podcast, also been hosting events in person and virtually, just holding space on various topics, whether it's from manifestation to inner child work, to EFT tapping circles, just all the things. Just wanting to broaden that spectrum of what healers look like and the type of uh, spaces we can hold for one another, because there's not a lot of women that look like us doing what, you know, we do, right? You and I have very different, um, I don't want to say practices, but very much like the healing circles that we hold, but there's not a lot of girls that look like us, you know. And it's so important that we do this work because it keeps people like that do look like us feel safe to even embark on these journeys, you know? So that's basically been my mission and something I've been doing for quite a while now. It's just so surprising that you even said Magical Mujer Morning was in 2021. Like that seems like ages ago and it just felt like yesterday.
You were hosting the rooms, and I remember you mentioning you had a podcast, and I actually remember listening to I like scrolled all the way to the very first episode, and I remember hearing you
Gosh.
say something, and I put it in the back of my head. And I think about it actually because I remember when I launched this vibrational shift podcast, I was like, I don't have any equipment, I don't have anything. And I remember you said something like, I'm doing this off my phone, I'm just gonna do it. And then to hear you say that it was part of your way of having access to, like, because you didn't have it, you weren't ready to go to talk therapy. And around the same time, I also like Clubhouse was a form of like finding people that were going through similar situations. And I don't think it has really dawned on me until this very moment right now how healing all of that was, that virtual connection with everyone on there, because I knew I needed therapy. I was having severe postpartum anxiety, and that was one of the things that helped me get through it without even realizing it. I've reflected a lot about that time frame. It was such a weird time for, I think, everyone. And
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't until a year ago that I finally started talk therapy. And yeah, it's interesting to hear the parallel there of how you were using the podcast and even the Magical Mujer mornings. So I'm really grateful that we came across one another, and just to hear what you said, even about the healing circles. It is true. There aren't that many people that look like us. And when I was at my retreat this past week and I looked around, and it was all faces that look like mine, right? And people that don't necessarily, I always think about like, who's not here in this room and why are they not here? Why are they not able to be here? Maybe it's because they don't feel like they can walk into a studio or into a space and feel seen and heard. And so, um, yeah, I agree with all the things you just said. It like made my heart smile.
Oh, I love that. It was such a good time, but such a lot of people went through a lot of transformation just because it was right after COVID. So people are still very much inside, still very much not doing things outside of their homes. So Clubhouse and doing things like virtual events was so powerful and necessary, and then gave us the safety of like still being in your own home but still having so much connection. And just what a time that was. But then so many things have blossomed from then, and I'm just so grateful that time happened. I've grown so much, and so much has inspired me because of that. And just to hear even like the stories like yours, like I remember, I think it was a voice note that you sent me. I don't know if it was to my phone or to my Instagram, that, I remember like stepping up into the room that day and saying what I wanted to manifest, and it happened. And the way how just that joy that like vibrates from inside of me when I hear those types of things. And I was like, oh man, like imagine if I wouldn't have opened the room that day. I'm very much positive that things would have still happened, but like everything is always in divine timing. And I'm just always so grateful because those types of stories always are still being sent to my DMs, sent by text, like just from people who have came either in passing or who are regulars in that room. And I'm just so glad to have even be a little piece of that. So just, I'll talk about Magical Mujer morning all day, every day if I could.
Yeah. And so this retreat that I just got back from was my fourth,
Oh,
since all of that happened, right? And then my
yeah,
fifth, yeah,
so
the
good.
fifth one is going to be in a few months again.
So good.
And it's beautiful because you created that space for us to feel safe, and saying it to like a room full of strangers all over the world. Because I remember
Wow.
you'd hear where people were coming from, and you'd hear them speak these things into existence, and you knew that something powerful was going to come as a result of that because you were being held in community.
Mm. Yes, totally. I mean, I remember people would have Latinas living abroad because it was very Latina centered room. We had Latinas like calling, or not calling in, but like, joining the room from like Japan, Chile, Ireland, like a couple from Europe. And it was just crazy because I only held it Pacific Standard Time. So there was people who were like, yo, it's 3 a.m. over here. I think we had somebody from New Zealand saying it was like 1 a.m. Like it was just, it's dope. I'd give a lot to go back to that time for sure.
Yeah, yeah. So thinking about some of the stuff we already started to touch on, and obviously the name of the podcast is The Vibrational Shift. When you think about your experience over life, I mean, there's so many,
Mm,
um, and you think about times where you know that you needed a shift, that something needed to change.
yeah.
I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit about how you knew that you needed a shift in your life and what that process looked like for you to take the steps to find that shift.
Oh man. So the biggest one for me will always be that moment in time where I was right before, I would say like the year before I started my podcast. So that was, oh, I'm not even going to give you the date because I can't even put a finger on it. But I had been feeling, I was a stay-at-home mom. Let me set the scene. I was a stay-at-home mom, two kids under two, and I was raging in so many ways that were just terrible. Like I was just petty all the time, very, very bitchy. Like, sorry if I'm cussing. Um,
You're good.
you know, uh always kind of angry and always ready to fight somebody, whether that was my husband or people in Target. You know what I mean? Like
Mm,
I was just always on edge and so ready to like fight at any given time, at whether it was in my car or it was in a grocery store, it did not matter. And I was just sick of myself. I was sick of feeling that way, always feeling super ultra sensitive about things, always feeling very on the defense, very on guard. It was so isolating, that feeling, and I was sick and tired of it because it was manifesting in my life in many ways where I just wasn't pleasant to be around. And i I was like, I'm not this person, like I know I'm loved. I'm, and I know very much like that's probably in the extreme in which I'm describing it, but that was the heaviest feeling I was feeling at that time, where I was carrying a lot of unhealed, unprocessed grief and trauma. And I went through a lot of loss from the age of 8 to 14, from the loss of my older brother, from being a caregiver to losing my two grandparents. And then initially like grieving my childhood that I did not have because I had to grow up and be an adult so fast, you know? And also too, being Mexican and Filipino, like it was something that, you know, kind of like you weren't allowed to express your emotions or cry or, you know, even say any type of thing that would make somebody uncomfortable, right? Emotions are very uncomfortable for the family that I was in, you know, that
Mm-hmm.
I'm in. They did not know what to do with my big emotions. So all I would do is just suppress them because I didn't feel like I was even allowed to have big emotions because people had more pain than me, you know. I couldn't grieve louder than my mom because she just lost her son, you know. I couldn't grieve louder than my aunts and my uncles because yes, they were my grandparents, but those were their parents. Do you get what I'm saying? And at
Yeah.
13, 14, to even like I feel sad for younger Nico that she had to go through that, you know? So all of that now kind of exploding with me being a mom and you know my life transition from being a working mom to being a stay-at-home mom. I was not ready for that, you know, and I was fairly young when I had kids too. I had my first son at 23, and then 18 months later, I had my second son. So it's just so much, and it was manifesting in a way where I just did not like myself. So that was the shift where I was like, I have to do something because I don't like how my relationship looks. I don't like the way how my relationship looks like with my husband, my family, with my friends, with myself. And I started to, manifestation got me back into, I would like to say, the spiritual things. And I had seen someone talk about self healing and, you know, doing meditations and stuff like that and journaling. And I would say that I started with journaling at first, really just letting things kind of flow. And still at that time, I probably didn't let things go like the way how, you know, like it just, I was very much conditioned to suppress. So the little that would come out was still a lot. So with self healing, you unpack a lot of things either fast or slow, depending on, you know, what you need to come out. And for me, it was slow at first, and then I just unpacked it all. And I was here with all my baggage, all the grief and the trauma and the
Mm.
pain, and had not like now what do I do? You know? So fortunately, because of COVID and telehealth being something um, a lot more accessible, because through my insurance it was free, and somebody had listened to my podcast saying that, you know, hearing me say that I was having a difficult time finding one. A listener of my podcast got me hooked up with my therapist that I've been with for the last 2 years. So um, I would like to say that shift of realizing that I was just ultimately so sick of myself
Mm.
led me through the beautiful process of my podcast, of that release. And then because of that podcast, that led me into talk therapy. You know, and so many things happened in between also, but that's like very much the, I would say like markers in my life where like, oh wow, because of this and I was completely over it led me to this and this and this, you know, where now my therapist wants to graduate me and no
Oh my
it
goodness.
says my time with her is done.
What a what a beautiful journey. And to hear you talk about like the way that you just explained it felt on the receiving end of listening to that, like how cathartic, you know, when you said it could go really fast or it could go really slow, and then all the baggage was there, and that it was a listener of your own podcast that reached out and was like, here's some information. And that led you into another 2-year journey.
Yeah.
Congratulations
I
on
know.
being
Thank you.
graduated.
I'm not too sure if she should though. I'm still very much wanting to resist that ending, but I know that it was eventual, you know, something that was eventually going to happen. which I never thought of. You hear on movies that people had therapy for 20 years, So I was like, oh, well, that's going to be me. Me and her are going to be friends for life. But when she kind of dropped the bomb on me a month ago that, like, oh, I think we got to start talking about how we're going to transition you into, out of therapy. And I'm like, what? Are you sure? So I feel like that's something like nobody really ever talks about. So very much still going through it. So maybe we could do like an update episode or something, because that'd probably be another shift.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially you've been going regularly for 2 years, like weekly.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Every other week. So it
yeah,
was what, two, almost three times a month sometimes.
wow.
Yeah.
So one of the other things I know, just because I've obviously followed you for a while and we met through the internet, through
Mhm.
Clubhouse.
Yes.
I know you've also hosted other types of self-healing
Mhm.
modalities, right? So you were talking right now about the journaling, about talk therapy, but were there other practices that you also found yourself kind of leaning on as you were moving through the process of talk therapy, like in addition to the others?
Yes. So around that time, when I said about the shift and I was absolutely sick of myself, one of the biggest things that was manifesting in my life was my sleep. I was not sleeping well and I had a lot of insomnia. Um, so one of the very first things that I started to do was not just journaling, but along with journaling was guided meditation to help me go to sleep. And then through that, I found that it was very much an exercise. It was very much a practice, because it was something that was very challenging for me to do, especially because I was in my head all the time. So I had to really practice how to let go and to just be and to relax, and what that actually meant. People think it's just like spa things, doing all these like very surface, getting your nails done and all types of things, but to actually just be in a room on your bed, quiet, comfortable, and just laying there without any, I don't want to say direction, but without any agenda. That was something that was very difficult for me to do in the beginning. But once I got the hang of letting go, and it's okay if the thoughts came in and out. When I learned that, my sleep got better. Um, my relaxation through that process got a lot better. And then processing what was important and what was not, because I was so on edge all the time. I had a hard time not engaging. And that was a very helpful tool to help me like process, like, is this necessary to pop off right now? No, it's not. Like, is this something that I should be freaking out about? No, it's not. So that was something in the very beginning that was very, very helpful. The journaling I found was something, helped me with like the repetition, right? Exercise, just like it is for your body, and doing the reps. Same thing with journaling, being able to find some prompts that can help you guide you through that release, because that all of it is really just releasing what's been stagnant and what's been trapped in here for so long. And that's what helped me a lot. And then eventually I got introduced to EFT tapping, which is the emotional freedom technique. And that has been a big game changer in my self healing, because it was taking a lot of things that I had learned through journaling and meditation, and of course, learning affirmations along the way. EFT tapping really helped kind of get my body grounded, um, and it's really a massage for your nervous system. So that's something that has helped very, very much. And eventually introduced that practice in Magical Mujer Morning, and did those guided, and then eventually, did videos about them, and on my YouTube channel, and there's a ton on my Instagram. So it's been awesome being able to share with people what has helped me.
Yeah. Hearing you say that meditation was one of those things where, it's really hard sometimes for people to sit with themselves. I know early on in my practice a long time ago, and even to this day, I have moments where I am very up here in my head a lot too. That when I find that I can't even sit still for 5 minutes, I know that that's when I need the practice the most.
Hmm.
And I see people all the time that come in when I'm leading sound baths, right, where they cannot settle because they're in their head. You can see them shifting, moving, like their body is literally trying to resist the stillness. And that's always a reminder to me to come back and cue, like, remember, you can sit here and focus on your breath. You can also become the observer of your thoughts, not necessarily having to engage every single thing that's coming in and out of the mind right now. Um, so it's very common for folks to be like, I can't lay here. I can't do this. This is too much. It's overwhelming because of the frequency and the volume of thoughts and how loud it actually feels for them to be there.
Yeah, I mean, when's the last time like you saw somebody like, if you growing up, did you see anybody do that? Like that's
No.
also one of the biggest things is that you're basically not even learning from example. You're the one starting that cycle. So you don't have any example to come off of. Like, yes, you're in a room with other people or you're watching it on YouTube or however you come across it. It's something that like you're embarking for the very first time probably in your own family, in your own environment. And um, that's a big feat in itself, So to even, because that's me all the time, even if I haven't done sound healing for a while, I just did one couple weeks ago and I found myself like, oh man, like I need to really let go because just my body was just vibrating. I could not, especially if you're
Mm.
trying to go to a studio, you just came out of traffic, you just got out of work, you dropped the baby off somewhere, your husband's annoyed because you're going to this and why are you getting time for yourself? Like you're dealing with so much
Yeah.
outside stuff. It's very much not like the movies. Real life is happening as we're trying to get grounded. So the fact that we're even trying to do so is just it's a green check mark for all of us, so it's and like you said, like you're a healer yourself and you've been doing it for a long time, and even you have a challenging time. Like I tell people all the time, like I'm currently in self-healing burnout. Like I just right now what's helping me is like watching Real Housewives of Orange County. Is it that um healthy? Probably not, but that is something that I'm able to hold on to. Even just people make it much more complicated than it should be, and we should be having these conversations of like what's helping us in the moment, because sometimes, hey, maybe you can't sit down for a 10-minute meditation or you can't bring yourself to do tapping, but maybe just 2 minutes of just being with yourself or choosing something for yourself for the day. Because we're, especially as women, we're so selfless and so giving. We're the last person that we're thinking about on our to-do list. So I totally can relate to all of that.
Yeah, I love two everything that you said, but two things that stick out to me, especially as women of color, as Latinas, like we didn't see anyone else doing this. We didn't see
No.
people taking time to rest. They were always working hard to like strive to have success. And so the notion of rest was something I really wrestled with. And it's reflected even in my own practice. I don't do my practice, my yoga practice is no longer about like forceful movement, like power, like a power yoga. It is restorative. It is
Oh
gentle. It
wow.
is like really allowing
I
myself
love
to
that.
just lay there and be in my body. And I remember I had resistance to it because I kept telling myself like, you need to be even in your own self-care practices, you have to be striving or doing something, and I've let that go over the last couple of years and it's been really healing. I think about it, it actually matches up with my second pregnancy, and everything that kind of unraveled during COVID and my postpartum period was really just giving myself permission to rest and knowing that I'm setting the example for my daughters so that when as they grow up, that they know how to access their breath. to be able to calm themselves down, that they know that you need to take the time to take care of yourself, and that
So
they
good.
see that, yeah, that they see that embodied in me. And I try and remind them, like, this is, you have to do this for yourself. And you said something about, you just dropped off the baby, the husband's annoyed that you're like taking time for yourself. It's something we talk about. Like, if I'm saying, mommy's leaving because I'm going to go do this, it's because I'm taking care of myself, and you should take care of
Mm.
yourself too. So really thinking about that generational legacy that you're leaving behind, because that's how our grandkids, our great grandkids are going to know about us, or through the stories that are told. And it's something I really think about a lot with my girls. Like, what are the generational, like, things, the legacies I want to leave behind through them, through things that we don't even think about, right? Like the practices that we have, the things that we do as a family,
Mm.
allowing them to have their emotions. You were talking about that suppression piece. I would, how many of us were told, if you're going to cry, you need to leave?
Oh
Or,
my God.
yes.
Oh
And
my God.
how, as an adult, that comes back, and how that plays out when you've been told all your life you can't cry, and then you have something that is like jarring to you, and you just unravel.
Mm.
And it plays out differently for everyone, but it is something that I try and be. I've learned so much about myself as a mother
Mm.
because of the things that they're showing me, all the places that I still need healing. Because it's like,
Oh,
wait, this is triggering you. Why is it triggering you? And how is that going to inform how I take my next step as a mother? So,
totally.
yeah.
I mean, I have three sons, 12, about to be 11, and a 7-year-old. And as you were talking about, kind of like rewriting generationally what this looks like now for our kids. Like, that goes back to like one of my vibrational shifts of like, I got to do this for them because I can feel my dad's voice, my dad's energy coming through me, and I hate it. When you said the part of like, if you're going to cry, you need to leave. My grandmother was dying, and she was literally my second mom, and I was her caregiver at the age of 13. And they would literally say, if you're going to cry, go outside so that she doesn't get sad. And it's so crazy what that does to you so young, because I was a kid still. They may have looked at me as like a young adult already. I was a child that should never have been told that. So to be able, and I don't want to say it's a gift, but to be able to have the privilege to tell my sons it's okay to cry, especially them being boys,
Mm.
them being Mexican and Filipino, and how macho and machista just generations before them has been, and to be able to tell them like it's okay to cry, don't worry about that, be able to um help them in when they say I'm sad, and I'm like, it's okay, me too, just to be, instead of suppressing, and where I would tell my parents I'm sad or I don't feel good or something, the little times that I did, they'll be like, well, we got things to do, I gotta work. Who else is gonna put money, food on the table? I have no choice. I have to go to work. Like, the part of I have no choice is still
Mm.
something to this day that my mom says. And it's like, I feel sad for her now. Whereas before, that line would be so annoying for me. And now for me, it's like, I feel bad that she's still to this day at almost what, her mid 60s, still feeling like she has no choice. But what a privilege it is for me, and gift I can give to my kids, and let them know that they actually have a choice. Like, you can cry, you can be sad. It's okay to be vocal and to show it. It's okay that you don't have to oppress it, suppress it. Like, this is the fruits of our self-healing labor, is to be able to give our kids a different outlook and upbringing. Like, I'm proud of us, girl, because
Yeah,
it's a lot. It's a
it
lot breaking those
is.
curses and cycles.
It is. So many good nuggets in here. And I think as we close out our time, I definitely want to have you back on to hear
Oh,
how the
yes.
transition goes and, where you're at after you close out your time with your therapist. It's something that I'm glad that you mentioned it. I haven't brought it up yet with any of our guests. It's when you come from backgrounds like we have, where you don't talk about emotions, you don't go to a psychologist, you don't go to therapy because
So
you don't want
taboo.
to, yeah, you don't want to share your business. They don't need to know about what's happening at home to hear it. And if this helps at least one person to be like, it's okay for me to ask for help. It's okay to go seek someone who can help you navigate the emotions that maybe you never had support, in the past.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, with that being said, how can people find you? What are some of the things that you have going on right now? Where should people connect with you?
So I am very, very active on Instagram and TikTok still. So just at Evolve Nicolette, Nicolettee on TikTok and Instagram. I also have a YouTube channel called Evolve with Nicolette. And I currently have 4 EFT tapping videos they did last August for Baddies Tapping Circle. And I feel like it's a good introduction of EFT tapping and such good topics. I held it for 4 weeks. So all 4 videos are on there right now. If you want to, kind of peep the scene and see if EFT tapping is something that you want to add to your self healing toolbox, I totally recommend and just trying it. It very much in the wellness realm, you hear a lot about meditation and all these things, and EFT tapping is still very new. And I would totally encourage everybody to try it at least one time and see if it helps. And I have a self-healing workshop with a local healer here in SoCal, and we're going to be doing one virtually. I think it's September 25th, I think it is, the last Sunday of September. And we're going to be doing it virtual, so totally accessible. She's going to be doing guided meditation and breath work, and I'm going to do the EFT tapping portion along with a practice. So that's the next event I have going on, and hopefully launching year 4 of the podcast in August. So it's been quite a journey. So having to um, continue, what this has meant for me and meant for others. I'm just excited to get more of the podcast going. So Evolve with Nicolette podcast, available on Spotify and Apple.
Now I'll hand it over to you to close us out with a practice of your choice.
Oh, so let's do obviously EFT tapping. If you've never done EFT tapping before, you're using your hands and your fingers to tap on these meridian points that are on your body. Very similar to acupressure and acupuncture. These meridian points hold a lot of energy. And whether you're feeling stagnant, limiting belief, scarcity, um, negative mindset, and just like overall whatever it is that you're feeling, it has been known to help with depression. I have PTSD, and it has very much helped me with coping. And it's something that's very easy to do, something that you can do yourself. There's a lot of guided EFT tapping sessions on YouTube and on Instagram and all the things. And like I said, I have 4 videos right now on my YouTube channel. I think with what we've been talking about and just, generation, breaking generational curses and stopping those cycles. I feel very much called to talk about just being enough in this moment in time, right? Wherever you're at and whatever your healing journey looks like, um, you're always going to be enough, and worthiness and something is always like at the forefront of my healing practices. So let's do a little bit. Let's do a couple rounds. So you're going to start at the top of your head, so kind of like the crown of your head, and then the next point is right above your eyebrows, and then your temples, right underneath your eyes, your nose, underneath your nose, and then on your chin. And then right where your collarbone is, tap gently below those points. And then right where underneath your arm, so kind of like where your bra bone line is or would be, tapping right there underneath your arm, and then ending it with your palms. All right, so those were the points. Go ahead now, get settled into your space. It's very important, just like every other energy um, energy work. It's very important to stay hydrated, especially if it's one of the first times you've done tapping, because you're tapping on these points. It's kind of like a massage. We're trying to replenish the body because toxins are being moved, energy is being moved. So staying hydrated is very, very important. So as you get ready, find your comfortable space, hopefully quiet. If the kids are around, just lock yourself in the room for a couple minutes. And whenever you're ready, take a big deep breath in through your nose, hold it at the top, and release. And just follow along and repeat after me. I am enough. I am powerful. I am strong. And even though there are times that I don't feel powerful or strong, I remind myself that I have been through hard times and situations before. So whenever I go through those hard times or those limiting beliefs, I'll bring myself to remember that I am absolutely enough, regardless of what I have accomplished or what I haven't accomplished yet. I'm enough in this moment right now. I have the power of my ancestors running through my veins and the love of the angels watching over me right now. So whatever it is that I'm going through, no matter how big in my mind it feels, I am powerful. I am enough. And I forgive myself for all the times that I felt less than, because I am powerful and enough right now. I don't have to prove it. I don't have to explain it. I am valid and powerful and enough right now. So with this, I deeply and completely love and accept and forgive myself. I know that I am loved, I am enough, and I am powerful right now. And I choose to hold on to this moment for all the times that I don't feel that way. And so it is. So whenever you're ready, take a big deep breath in through your nose. Hold it at the top and release. kind of sit in this feeling. If you're feeling relaxed, if you're feeling very energized, or you feel like your body's vibrating, those are very, very normal feelings. Like I said, these meridian points hold so much energy. So as we're tapping, doing a session like that, it's very normal to either feel tired or to feel the complete opposite, feel like you're ready to go conquer the world. Just act on whatever it is that you're feeling. So if you feel like you need to take a nap, go ahead and do that. If you feel like you want to go, you know, do your to-do list or whatever it is, go with the flow and the ease of whatever is feeling called after a session like this. It's something that's very simple to do. I did that tapping right off the top of my head. It does not need to be scripted. I would totally start with whatever energy that it is that you want to move through, and then kind of tap your way through that. It's very much acknowledging what you want to release and then calling in whatever you want to renew. It's such an easy practice and something that you could do absolutely anywhere. And it has helped me so much throughout the last couple of years of my self-healing journey. So I try to share as much as I can, because it might have been the first time you're watching that today. And I'm glad to plant that seed, just to add to your self-healing toolbox. It does not hurt to get all the tools, because you never know what you may feel called to use in that day or whatever it is. So thank you for letting me lead that and for the opportunity to be on your podcast today.
Thank you. That was actually my first time doing tapping.
Oh my God.
And I feel so energized right now. So I'm the latter. I think you said if you're ready to go conquer the world in your to-do list. That's that's how I feel right now. Thank you
Totally.
so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
There were so many great topics that we naturally found our way on. And um, if you're not already, make sure to go find Nico on all of her channels. And
Yes.
until next time, thank you.
Bye.
Thank you all again for joining in for this week's episode. Do me a favor. If you aren't already, please be sure to follow this podcast on wherever you're streaming it from. Leave a rating and a comment. That way I can see what you guys are enjoying. I'm getting ready to start prepping season 3, and I can't wait. Some of the folks that I've been reaching out to are teachers that I've admired for such a long time. So I can't wait to have them on here. Next week's episode is actually a couple of past retreat guests. We talk about our experience in the Temascal from last year's Sacred Self-Love Retreat. I hope you all tune in for that. And as always, reach out. I will catch you over on IG at Luna Serenity Yoga, or if you'd like to learn a little bit more about me, if this is your first time tuning in, more information is available at lunaserenity.com. Bye.